Welcome to Another News. I'm Jeff Brady. A few years ago, Dr. Serge Kahili King was a guest on the show discussing his book titled Instant Healing: From Cutting-Edge Scientific Research to Ancient Rituals and Holistic Medicine. Powerful, drug-free methods to help you heal your body and stop pain now. For that interview, I didn't read the whole book. We decided instead to focus on a single important chapter because it would help most listeners right away and prompt an interest in the material. I've recently read the entire book, and I'm glad I did. I learned a lot more about the foundation that Dr. King set up in order to prepare the reader to heal themselves. Part of that foundation is learning the many ways to communicate to the body in order to heal. Another part is how the body holds memory of not only your life experience, but ancestral genetic memory. In this interview, we're going to learn about the basic concepts needed to begin the many different healing processes and then revisit those techniques with some new testimonials. If you're experiencing chronic pain from injuries such as sprains, broken bones, emotional trauma, and even past injuries, stay tuned here because we're going to cover many of the practical ideas and methods that have worked and will begin to transform your view of reality. Author and psychologist Dr. Serge Kahili King was initiated into the path of Hawaiian shamanism at age 14. At 17, he was adopted as the grandson of a kupua or shaman of the Hawaiian tradition. He studied Eastern culture and philosophy and spent 7 years in West Africa learning shamanic traditions. He has a doctorate in psychology from California Western University. Dr. King is the author of Mastering Your Hidden Self, Imagineering Your Health, Kahuna Healing, and Herb and Shaman. Dr. King is also the executive director of Huna International, a 10,000-member worldwide network of teachers, counselors, and therapists who follow his work. In this recording, you're going to hear that we have a bad connection initially. I think we last about 2 minutes here, and then we switch to a different phone, which goes much better. So bear with us in the first 2 minutes here. Dr. King, welcome back to Another News.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's great to speak with you again, and specifically about your book, Instant Healing. And as basic as it may seem, would you please revisit the concepts of stress and tension as related to illness?
Well, this is a major concept for the whole book, which is all about ways to do that. But the idea is, in simple terms, that every illness of any kind has as its foundation a problem of tension. And that to the degree that you can find a way to relieve that tension, the body, sometimes with the help of medicine and sometimes without, will be able to heal itself a lot better.
I see. Okay, I got it. So tension is interfering with the body's ability to heal itself.
When we take a medicine, for instance, it's not the medicine that does the healing. It's the body that uses the medicine for healing, or not.
In your book, you name physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, spiritual stress, and holistic tension as components here of different types of tension and stress that most people go through. I think these can be elusive into understanding how we need to relax. We don't know all of these components usually. If we can get people to understand how tension interferes with healing, did you have any breakthroughs maybe with people who understood tension was interfering with their healing?
Oh, good heavens. Many over the years. When we talk about physical tension, Okay, let's take a few of these. This is really the tension that comes from overworking the body. You're going to get physical tension if you're running up a hill or if you're engaged in some strong activity that requires body movement. That produces tension. Now, it must be clear, the tension is in the body, okay, regardless of what produces it. So physical tension is just the normal tension that you would get from overworking some part of your body. Now, mental tension comes from ideas that you have that, can upset you, okay? Or ideas you have that things that you might believe in that will make physical tension more abundant, more present. They could believe in what certain foods do, could believe in what certain people are like. Just all kinds of things can produce what we might call mental tension. Or, for instance, if you criticize yourself a lot, that produces tension in the body. Now, if we talk about emotional tension, that's real simple. Primarily fear and anger and all of their relationships are the most common forms of that kind of tension, that produce that kind of tension.
All right, apologies for that. We switch over to a better phone now.
Holistic tension you get from the ideas of other people. And then I think I mentioned spiritual tension is where you either protecting or moving away from connection with the world around you. So in other words, going into meditation can be really good to begin with, but there's a point where if you stay in too long, the body's going to tense up.
Thank you for elaborating on that. It may seem very basic, but sometimes it can be an elusive obviousness. When you write about intent of the mind, you referenced a study that caught your attention titled Listening to Prozac but Hearing Placebo by Dr. Guy Saperstein and Irving Kirsch. And in this study, depressed patients were given antidepressant medication. You quote Dr. Saperstein that people benefiting from drugs are benefiting because they think that taking the antidepressant is working. You summarize that the expectations people have about a drug may have a more powerful effect on them than the drug itself. I realize this isn't breaking news, but would you please talk about what gives placebos such a positive expectation?
Well, you just named it. It has to do with positive expectation. When we're dealing with the body is always present. But the body also has memory, access to memories, and expectations that can be held on by itself or can be triggered by the mind and the kind of thinking that's going on. So when you have a placebo, now, first of all, it's very important to understand that not all antidepressants work because of placebos. Okay? There is a certain high percentage, but sometimes antidepressants work because they're antidepressants and they help a person. But there's a certain high percentage of people who are influenced by what has been said about the medicine, what other people may have done about it, what the doctor says about it. This is why we see so many ads on television that are sometimes entertaining, sometimes have information that are intended to get people more excited about taking a particular medicine. Okay? So expectation is very important, and that's what the placebo effect comes from.
And you've noticed that this is very important to understand in regard to healing, instant healing in the book. Some of the methods are connected to this type of positive expectation. Can you talk briefly about that?
One of the things that when we talk about many techniques, but one of them has to do with the power of imagination. And with the power of imagination is that you can expect consciously, purposely, doing it willingly and knowingly, expect a particular method to work for you and to help you. To the degree that you do that, you are inciting the body to make those steps and either use the kind of method, the good things about the method, or getting well regardless of them. So with imagination, you imagine yourself getting well, imagine yourself accomplishing something, imagine yourself feeling good because you've taken the medicine. You are purposely then using the placebo effect.
And I want to go over some of these concepts and ideas before we get into the healing methods, because this foundation is really important to understand. Another fascinating chapter you have is titled Memory, the Body, and Healing.
Yes.
Would you tell listeners, please, about the human's body ability to record memories from experience and how this is important when learning some self-healing methods?
Well, of course it's very important, but it has positive and negative features because, for instance, if you remember an incident or remember something where you got hurt, for instance, then and you dwell on that, you tend to bring that into the present moment, and the body begins to react to that, okay, as if it were a present moment problem. Right? You can also, what I teach people how to do is go back, and this might sound strange, but it's very powerful in terms of healing. You can go back and change a memory. There's nothing sacred about a memory. It's just, like I said, it's like a record, only it's more than just a record. It's not in there fixed. It's a possibility, even when it was something that happened, and you can modify that memory so that you don't have that effect in the present moment.
That chapter is an amazing chapter on imagination in your book titled Instant Healing. And I think you also mentioned that we could reimagine a bad dream or a negative dream.
Oh, sure. We can reimagine anything we wish if we're willing to do it.
Would you talk about maybe some results of maybe a client or a patient that had success with reimagining a memory connected to an injury or a negative dreams? Sure.
One of the best examples would be in a particular type of method that we call, well, it doesn't matter what you call it. What it has to do is reenacting something differently. Okay? So, for instance, in a very, very simple way, if you hit your thumb with a hammer while you're driving a nail into something, well, it's going to hurt. And you can sit there and you can watch it swell and you can get all upset about it. But if you were to take the hammer immediately, move it toward your thumb without touching it over and over again, you're changing the memory. And if you can add some words to help you focus, which is nothing happened, nothing happened, nothing happened. Why the body will tend to relax, and you won't have any effect from that. Doctors have used it when they've cut themselves. They've tried this technique, and it worked for them. People have used it, yes, like this. I remember one woman, here's an example. Well, she burned the inside of her leg when she was getting off a motorcycle because she hit the hot part of it. And so she didn't have the motorcycle with her, but she had the memory. And so she lifted her foot off, just standing there in a different way, as if during the original event she had bypassed that hot manifold. And so nothing happened. nothing happened, nothing happened. And she did that for about 5 minutes, and the burn healed itself because it didn't happen in terms of body memory.
That technique, I've been telling it as many people as possible, and that technique in your book, I think it's chapter 7, when we did the first interview, has been helping many, many friends and colleagues. I just want to mention, and myself, I have a couple testimonials, but I want to remind listeners that we're speaking with Dr. Serge Kahili King. He is our guest, and this is our second interview on this book, Instant Healing. We're getting more detail, more granularity. The book is titled Instant Healing, the subtitle From Cutting Edge Scientific Research to Ancient Rituals and Holistic Medicine, Powerful Drug-Free Methods to Help You Heal Your Body and Stop Pain Now. And the technique you mentioned, you had a couple names for it, but I think you settled with the mind blower technique.
Yeah, that's one of them, right?
A car had knocked over my motorcycle, and where I lived, it was very common for that kind of thing to happen. It weighs about 400 pounds. I bent down, lifted it upright using the handlebars. I put it on the kickstand. The next morning, my left side was very sore. I realized I had torn a muscle in the oblique muscle group, and it was painful, and it got worse as the day went on. I couldn't take a deep breath without it hurting, and I realized I would need to visit the hospital to get checked out. But then I remembered instant healing. So with that real defined motion there to repeat, I mimed lifting up the motorcycle and repeated, nothing happened, nothing happened. And I did this about 40 times, maybe more. Within the hour, the pain was gone. I was healed. And I read about people with this sort of injury wearing braces around, body braces for weeks.
Yeah, that's a wonderful example.
Let me see. I have another one. Oh yeah, okay. A friend of mine upstate was walking up to his door, and he slipped on the ice on the steps. He had groceries, and it's not funny, but he landed on his side and on a can that was in one of the bags and cracked a rib. He's in his 70s. I told him about this technique, and I said, Steve, can you maybe mime the motion? He was in too much pain. He couldn't do it, Dr. King. So I said, wait, can you sit in your chair and bring the can to the rib and say nothing happened? Well, he started to do that, and the pain was gone.
Yeah, that's a really amazing one.
I have a couple more. Yeah, so I had a shoulder injury, and I couldn't move it for a number of months normally. I wasn't incapacitated, but the muscles atrophied around the shoulder, and I was doing this exercise called shrugs, and you just, you move your shoulders up and down with some weight. I hurt a tendon that attached to a bone at the top of the shoulder, and the next day I could barely move my arm. I had to rest my whole arm across my chest. If I moved it any other way, it would be excruciating pain. I remembered I could do the instant healing and mime the movement that caused the injury, and sure enough, within a half hour, perfectly fine.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, in the book, I think I talk about the time when I fell on a rock and broke my fingers.
Oh yeah, could you tell listeners about that?
Yeah, this is a very important one for a good reason. Yes, I was hiking down a river and climbed up on a rock, and the rock was slippery, and I fell. And on reaching down, my hand hit on top of a boulder, and broke my fingers up into. Didn't break them off, but they were looking very strange, and it was painful. So what I did was sat on the rock and use this technique to bring my hand down over and over and over again, and until, probably, I'd say maybe an hour, until the hand was healed again. So it was gone, no problem. Went out, went home. Next time I was at a meeting when I was describing the incident. And here's what's important here. As I'm describing the breaking of my index finger, it began to swell up right then. And the reason was because I was focusing on the memory of that incident. And my body then was beginning to recreate it. And this is what happens with an awful lot of people when they are remembering a problem or remembering an incident, and then the body, which only lives in the present moment, begins to recreate that incident for good or bad. So right there in class, then I had to do this technique again of making the motions as if I were there in the water with the rock. And then about 5 minutes, my hand was fine again. But when I began focusing on the incident, my body began to respond and recreate it.
That is very important to understand. And we had talked earlier about the memory being in the body as well. This would be a different situation, do you suspect, if the incident didn't happen and you were imagining the incident happening?
Oh, sure. Because if I were doing it that way, I would have to have a very focused imagination before the body would respond. I was giving it a new memory.
So it's easier for the body to remember because those pathways are already kind of burned through of that particular memory, and the cells connect and talk with each other to put together that incident in your body, and then there's the swelling.
Sure. Now, what the reason it can be changed so quickly is very simple. The body wants to feel good. And any pathway you provide for that to happen, the body's going to cooperate.
Now, this is interesting. You had written, the body is very gullible. I was thinking about this in the context of incessant fearfulness within media sources that we all tune into and how it affects the body. What do you think about that in terms of the millions, the billions of people on the planet and in that state of fearfulness?
Yeah, well, that's the problem, of course, is that it's, contagious as well. When there's someone else who nearby is open to that kind of fear, and it might not be very strong, but if you're in a group of people with that fear, the likelihood is it will get stronger by resonance, unless you purposely do something to change your thinking and your behavior.
When you find yourself in a situation like that, what do you usually do?
Well, like I said, I usually stop and become aware of what I'm doing and change it. There was a time, I don't know if I put this in the book or not, but there was a time, quite a long time ago, when I was in college, and there was I won't mention any names, but there was a man came down who was running for president, and at the center of town, this was in the days, believe it or not, when they actually traveled by train from town to town. But I've been around a long time. So there were a lot of people coming down the street. There's two main streets coming down toward the train station. I made my way down there sooner, and I'm standing really close to the platform where this man was going to talk. Now, I had decided I'm going to be neutral. I'm not going to think one way or another. So he's doing his talk, and at the end of his talk, when he's really, shouting the intense words and raising emotions, and people were yelling, and I found myself 3 feet up in the air with my hand raised. Whoa! When I came down, I went, what was I doing? And what was I doing was allowing that energy to resonate with me because I had no other focus. Body needs a focus. So the body took that on, and here I am up in the air yelling for this guy that I really didn't care for. But the body didn't know that. The body just joined in the energy. That's powerful emotional energy. So as soon as I landed back down, I changed my mind instantly as to what I really wanted to think, and that problem was gone.
You had written, the body will believe virtually anything if you present it convincingly enough, often enough, or intensely enough, or with enough authority to overcome any previously held expectations.
That's right. And especially so if there's some benefit in it for the body to feel good.
Okay. How did you find out about the human body being malleable this way?
A lot of experimentation on my own. And then it helped a lot, too, when I was a lot older. Some of these things began when I was in Africa, but when I came back to the States and started working on my doctorate and started studying hypnosis and self-hypnosis and opened an institute for it. Wow. Then practicing on all these people who came was immensely, I think, exciting and effective using these ideas.
I see. And it might seem really simple or simplistic for people listening to us talk about this, but this is distilled information that took years of research and understanding so you could convey these methods and techniques. Would you talk about the possibility of resetting parts of your body? Maybe your hearing, for example, to a time when you're more healthy, something like that. Is that possible?
It's possible. Depends on how much tension, of course, and how well you can shift the focus in a different way. Depending on that, yes, incredible things, almost miraculous things can be done to change your body. Now, this brings up something that also needs to be thought of. There is the idea that sometimes we inherit a particular kind of condition from our parents or our ancestors. Well, not exactly, because our body has all the memories of everybody in our family going back as far as possible. It's just not all those memories are activated. Right? Thank goodness. And so when some of them are, you can have the same family and one person has an illness that's been in the family for years, and the next person in the same family doesn't have any trace of it. It's not a question of inheriting something. It's a question of remembering something for some reason or another. And thinking about the ancestor or the parent and thinking about the condition and being in stress to begin with can all have that effect of making it worse.
Right. And here again is the memory. You're very subtle about weaving that information through the book, and specifically the memory within the body. That is a key element within the types of healing techniques that are here.
Yes. I'm going to just add a little thing to that. When we have an expectation, that becomes a memory. And the more we focus on that expectation, the stronger that memory is in the body to be acted on.
Okay. As these memories are formed, they begin to influence the way we feel physically.
But only to the extent that we focus on them or something like them.
I think it's fascinating, Dr. King, that once we find out what it is, a particular memory or incident that occurred in the past, these causes are, especially if it is a memory or something like that, that you can go in and change it and heal yourself. I really liked that section on organic dreaming, where a particular organ or part of your body has its own dream state, and you could tap into that and change it. Yeah, and you can change it and heal yourself. You give a couple examples. The incident was a woman had a swollen thyroid, and she was able to tap into the dream state of the thyroid gland. And she saw that her ex-boyfriend was in the gland, and she imagined a door opening and letting him out. And within a week, the swelling was completely gone.
Now, let me give you another incident along the similar lines so people can understand this even a little bit better. Okay. I was teaching a lot of people how to stop smoking. Okay. And I remember I was working with this one woman and having her, putting her and having a dream, and in the dream having the cigarette, talking to her, and her talking to the cigarette. It's very similar to the thyroid thing. And I said, this woman, I have to say, when we began, she had never done hypnosis before, and the first thing she said when he sat in the chair is that nobody tells me what to do. And I said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to take you through an experience. Okay? And then she was all right. So anyway, we're in this dream state with her, and she's describing it. And the cigarette is there talking to her. And I said, okay, now, if you want to, you can tell the cigarette to leave your life. And what happens was, she's sitting right there, and the cigarette says, no, it won't leave. And I said, oh, is the cigarette telling you what to do? And she leaped up. Nobody tells me what to do. And she stopped smoking right then.
Oh, that's really good. It can be really simple at times and not a chemical resolution such as using the patch or something. That chapter, using your imagination, is incredible. There's so many ways that the reader can simply use their imagination to heal themselves.
Now, I think something important to add here. And what's important is that I'm not saying not to use medicine. That's not what I'm saying at all. Use it when it helps. But you have all these other abilities and possibilities to help as well. And sometimes you can do it with the medicine as a helper, and sometimes you can do it without it. You want to do what works.
Absolutely. You're very, very clear with that disclaimer in the book. And I was going to mention that, of course. But I'm glad you did, because this is certainly could be used in conjunction with other forms of treatment.
Let me give you an example, if I may. I don't know if I remember. Did I mention in the book about the doctor who was helping a girl who had a broken elbow?
I don't think so. I don't recall. No.
Okay. Well, let me tell this one, because it's right along these lines. He was an excellent physician and a surgeon, and so this girl came, and he had taken some of my courses. So this girl came, and she had a broken elbow, and he was working on healing it. And what he did, in addition to working on the healing, was to tell the cells what to do. He connected with them as if they were separate, alive, living, with interest in what was going on and so forth. So while he's doing his surgery, he's talking to the cells of her body and telling them how to cooperate. Not telling them to cooperate. He's a surgeon. He told them what to do. Well, so that was finished. He told me he came back the next day to see the girl, and he said, usually when you after a surgery like that, there's still a degree of difficulty in motion and soreness, if not pain. He said the girl had no problem whatsoever. Her arm was as if nothing had ever happened. And this was then a combination of his surgery skill and his communication with her body.
That's a great story. That is a beautiful illustration. In my opinion, we should be there. We should have been there already.
We can still do it.
I agree. Do you have specific ways to help people overcome their resistance to this type of healing?
Well, only if I can talk them into trying it. The simple things. Like you cut your finger. All right, well, stop. Move the knife back and forth without touching the cut and see what happens. You touch something and you burn your finger. Stop. Move your finger back and forth toward the hot object without touching it over and over again, especially if you repeat nothing happened, and see what happens. To the degree people are willing to try something simple like that, then it'd be amazing how they overcome some of the resistance.
What do you find are often common obstacles for people?
Well, okay. Some people are actually very afraid of doing something different, of trusting themselves. Some people are, and because of that, some people are just totally dependent on what they're told and how to do it, especially by authority figures, that they would feel very uncomfortable trying to do something which was different from what they were told. So this is one of the biggest things where people, it's not that they don't believe it, it's that they are afraid to try it.
Yes, when you said authority figures, I thought of, that section where we were talking about how the body responds to authority and is very gullible. So I would suspect that that's playing a role. Now, I wanted to ask you about healing areas of the body such as scars. Can that be done?
Oh, yes, sure. It's the same thing. The body knows how to heal a scar. And it's the same process. And it's good to be happy with any advancement on that. Don't get upset if the entire thing is gone and your skin is perfect. But if there's a change, and everything depends on the technique. Now, there's another completely different technique that is used in the same way for the same purpose that we call dynamite. And I'll just give you an example of something that was so good with this. And in this particular technique, it's just a question of talking to your body and then touching different places on your body to emphasize it, just touching them. And so this was one of a dear friend, and she had a stroke. And when I went to see her, the left side of her face was not only pale, but drooped. And so I talked to her an awful lot for a long time, and there were a lot of issues involved with people in her life that we worked through. And then finally, I gave her this technique to use, if she would use it, as much as possible. Well, we used the technique for a couple hours. At the end of a couple hours, there was a slight flush on her cheek, and her speaking was slightly better. She did this for at least an hour a day for 3 months. When I came back to see her, there was no trace, not a single trace of this stroke. It was completely healed because the body knows how to do that if you allow it.
When friends of hers, family members, see this kind of healing take place, what can you talk about the response from this? Her family, for example, other people who know her and saw the before and after?
Well, sometimes the response is wonder. I have never gotten because it helped her and she was good, and there she was. I have never gotten a negative response. Never gotten a response when somebody said I should have done something different or I shouldn't have done it, because there she was, healing. And some people actually decide to look into it more. Not everybody. So, there's lots of different kinds of responses, but in that kind of a thing, I've never received a negative response.
Right. I would think not, but it's hard to know.
Well, sure. People don't always express what they're thinking.
Certainly. I was speculating on my own here that this would make the news in your area.
I doubt it.
Well, a stroke like that, if not healed in this method, how long would it last?
Oh, that was expected to last. There wasn't any recovery for that it was expected at all. No. But because it seems to so many people so unlike what can be called the normal way of healing or getting help to be healed, it's just too far out to talk about or especially to publish.
Do you see this sentiment changing within the collective consciousness of humans?
Well, all I see are more and more techniques being talked about. Okay? And that can be a good thing. If people try them and they work, fine. Mine aren't the only possibilities.
We may have touched on this, but I just want to ask you again about a particular type of healing for past injuries that may have occurred, maybe 5-10 years ago, and in the body.
Ones where the effects are still there. I've been able to help people heal themselves by these methods that I'm talking about. Okay, I'm not doing the healing. I'm assisting sometimes, and sometimes simply teaching them how to do it. So that's one of the beauties of it. Okay, they don't need me.
Correct. And so somebody with an injury, maybe in a car accident, and they're limping, or their posture is asymmetrical, or something like that. Have you seen positive healing effects occur in incidences like that?
Sure. Yes, I have. The one I mentioned was with the motorcycle and the burns on the leg, which was weeks old. And that was healed in a very short, just a few minutes. Things that people have had for many, many years is still possible. It depends on how, and it might take long. When I talk about instant healing, I also say in there that some things take longer. And so it depends on how much the person is able to do and how consistent they are in doing it.
I got you. Yeah, it really is up to the person, which is really interesting, because it becomes a motivation for them to get into the place where the healing can occur, and that makes them notice the tension in their body, to stop being around these maybe external environments that cause stress.
Or wait a minute, or changing how you respond to those things around you. See, you don't have to go away from them. They don't cause stress. The stress is a reaction to something. That's important to understand.
Okay, I got it.
And you can change your reactions.
You had written about sickness being a learned behavior. This really caught my attention as well. Would you tell listeners more about this? Because you wrote, you learn an illness by means of repeating patterns of physical behavior to produce meaningful symptoms because it's useful. And that's another reveal into our cells and recorded memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, well, now this might sound strange to begin with, but it's also a fact that in certain cases, illnesses have a benefit to the person. It can be the way other people help them or act toward them. It can be that it allows them to do something they want to do or not do something they don't want to do. People will often use, even without consciously thinking about it, use an illness to achieve a particular effect in their life.
Yes, I know what you mean. I just I thought that was really profound and avoidable. People. I know people who don't get sick at all.
Not everybody will get it.
Dr. King, we're years on the other side of this. I call it an engineered pandemic. We'll just leave it at that. Through your lens of healing and the work that you do, would you give listeners an idea of what this looked like to you in terms of people being able to heal themselves and not get sick, or those that got sick?
Well, the only thing I can do is really talk about it from our own position. When I say our, my wife and I. And I didn't see it in the same way as you do, but that doesn't matter. Because when I tuned in, and then this was happening, and they were talking about all of the vaccines and stuff. Well, I've been around the world a lot and lived in Africa a long time, and so vaccines are not a new thing to me or to us. And so we took them when it was useful to take them. So when this happened, we looked at the vaccines. We looked at the ones that we thought were the least potential for difficulties, and so we had the first thing we took the first vaccine, and we, of course, in taking it, we also talked to our bodies and told it how to use it, and never had any problem at all after that. Sometimes. I'm a veteran, and so the Veterans Administration has provided me with a doctor that we consult, and he asks me every once in a while, if I've taken another vaccine or anything. I say no. He'll ask me if I want to take a particular medicine. I say no, thank you. But there are some things, like we had an occasion where he wondered if I was having a pain in my back, and he wondered if I would have a X-ray, and I said, I think that's a good idea. Well, he almost fainted. But so we set that up, and I did have it, and I gained information from that allowed me to talk to my body in a particular way so that the pain was gone. So I found usefulness in both having the first vaccine and in using X-ray for information.
I see. Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing that. How's your back now?
No problem.
So you were able to identify a particular muscle group or bone structure to talk with?
Yeah, I talked to the body in general. I focused on that area while I was talking to my body. But yes, I didn't have to specify and only communicate with that part, because obviously in the body, lots of things affect lots of things.
Most of us are managing some type of trauma in our lives. All of us are experiencing various states of tension and stress. There's no doubt there are techniques and methods in this book to immediately relieve some of those symptoms and get readers into a place where they're tuning into their own body and healing potential. To mention again, you're not telling readers to forego hospital or doctor visits and heal yourself. These are methods to use in conjunction with your doctor's treatment. It's important to qualify because in many cases you can't replace certain medicinal treatment. Again, you can augment with Dr. King's healing techniques offered in his book, Instant Healing. To go over some of the topics we've discussed, tension It could be in the mind, body, spiritual tension, emotional tension, or holistic stress. Is the foundation of any illness recognized by the shamanic traditions? Knowing that you can quickly begin working on methods to turn that around. We talked about the language of the body and how it receives communication, its vulnerability, and powerful healing ability. This healing is often related to the body's capacity to remember past events. Not the mind, but the body. The more you learn about the cells in the body holding memory and how to communicate with them, the faster, I suspect, you can heal yourself. A major clue that you mentioned, Dr. King, was how your index finger began to swell up after talking about healing your hand after that accident. This is an insight into the threshold of the neural pathways of the event, the mind's focus, and the body's response. After a while, you may be able to measure how much energy and focus will be needed for a specific healing event. Again, there are many techniques in this book. You'll certainly find some that will be beneficial. Dr. Serge Kahili King, you have so many fascinating books, including Mastering Your Hidden Self, Imagineering Your Health, Kahuna Healing, Herb and Shaman, and Earth Energies, of which you were a guest talking about various earth energies in that book. Great interview. Please tell listeners where they could find your books and learn more about your work.
The easiest way to find them is on Amazon.
Okay, so they would look up your name, Dr. Serge Kahili King.
Don't have to put the doctor in, just Serge Kahili King. We'll take you there. We also, for helping people with healing and with other things that may be problems in their life, we have 400 video clips on YouTube that are short and very useful.
If listeners want to reach out to you and ask you questions, how might they do that?
I'm always available for that. You can do Serge Kahili King at yahoo.com. I'll be glad to answer questions.
Okay, and would you describe Aloha International for listeners?
Okay, well, I have to say that we are no longer using that term for legal reasons here in Hawaii. Our legal name is Huna International. Now, we still have the right to use Aloha, but there are other organizations using that too. So our legal name is Huna, Huna, Huna International.
Wonderful. Okay. And that is a group of counselors and therapists who follow your work and probably do the same types of healing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what they're teaching their people to do, yes.
Well, Dr. Serge Kahili King, thank you so much again for taking the time to be on In Other News and talk about this book, Instant Healing.
Well, I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
That's going to do it for In Other News. I'm Jeff Brady. Visit inothernewsradio.com for archives and more information about the guests.